Good morning, it's Dr. Hodges, and this morning I want to talk a little bit about mindful eating, triggers, stress, and how all of that can affect our weight. And I think what I'd like to do is start with an example of mine. Literally, this happened to me yesterday, and I was like, oh my God, I need to share this with my patients. And I think sharing this example, we will then be able to go kind of backtrack and see how we can learn from that and what we can do to have success in the future. So the tale begins when I get home and my sweet husband is at the kitchen island with my daughter, and I'm literally coming in just like mad as a wet hen, raging. And we sit down, we start to talk. I'm incredibly stressed, and I go and I got some bourbon. I love bourbon. Well, I do enjoy bourbon, not as much as I used to, but I got a bourbon, mixed it up. I always add a little Sprite because I like my sweet. Actually, I really love sweets. And I made a cocktail, and as I was talking, I think I maybe took 1 or 2 sips. And then I was like, I don't even know why I'm drinking this because it gives me heartburn. I know I'm not even going to drink this. What am I thinking? And he, without beating an eye, he goes and gets a little cup, like a cute little dish thing that I really like. And he filled it with these Quaker squares that are really cinnamony and sweet, but they're really high in fiber and really low glycemic index. Carb. And so he gave them to me, and literally as I'm talking to him, spilling my guts, when I tell you I just like mow through those, I mean, I didn't even realize it till my fingers were like tinkling on the glass. And once I got through talking about everything, I was able to sit back. I felt tremendously better because I had been talking about my issues, but it made me giggle because sometimes my husband knows me better than me. So what does this all mean? I think whenever we get stressed, all of us have different triggers that are going to cause us to be stressed. Everybody's going to have different stress points or things that aggravate us, things that stress us out. That's number one. We all have triggers. And number two, since the time that we were itty bitty, we have developed different mechanisms to cope with that stress. And all of us have different mechanisms. All of us. Some of us shop, some of us eat, some of us drink, some of us go and work out. There's a million different coping mechanisms that people have. For instance, if I'm on a plane and there's turbulence, I have found that if I play Candy Crush or Toy Blast, I love Toy Blast, I'm able to focus on that and I'm not nearly as stressed. I mean, I'm still stressed, but I think it's funny that the more turbulence there is, the more frantic my playing is. But I will not even share that game with my daughter. I'm like, and Collins knows, he's like, Margie, just let her be. And I'll just be playing on the phone. Collins and Margie, they're sleeping right through everything. Me, I'm just white knuckling it, which is the silliest thing ever. So, hang on 1 second. Good morning. I'm Noelle. Hello. Do pup pup. So I go to say, we all have stressors, we all have triggers, and we have all developed different coping mechanisms for each one of these stressors and triggers. And oftentimes our coping mechanisms are things that we've developed over time that we might not even realize that we're doing them. I mean, oftentimes our coping mechanisms are things that we developed from modeling our parents, modeling our caregivers, things that we've learned along the way, things that we've seen our friends do. But in the end, our bodies have had a stressor, and we found a way to cope with that stressor. That is just how God made us. That is how our brain functions, and it is a protective mechanism. So I think, looking back at my illustration, what we can kind of deduce from that is, number one, clearly for me, I had a stressor and it was from work. Very common stressor. So number 2, what was my coping mechanism? My coping mechanism was initially to stick something into my mouth. Now, when in residency, which is incredibly stressful, I was single and ready to mingle. And what I really enjoyed doing whenever I was not on call is going out with my friends. And when I tell you, I knew all the best brunch spots in Dallas. I knew all the happy hours, all of that. Well, I am 46 now. My little belly can't handle it. I really don't drink really anymore. And please do not think that I'm being judgy with anybody that enjoys a good cocktail. I just now personally don't enjoy it as much because if I have usually more than one drink, I start to get a gastritis and heartburn and blah, blah, blah. So I find it interesting that my initial coping mechanism initially is I went and I got a cocktail. But then I literally said, I don't know why I'm doing this because I didn't even want to do it. And I actually ended up not even doing it. I ended up throwing out the whole drink. I literally had 2 sips. But had there been a big fat chocolate bar right there, or oh my God, a piece of chocolate cake, or chocolate chip cookies. Good morning. Good. If those things had been there, I will tell you, I would have mowed through the entire plate and never even known. And this is when it's nice to have someone that can kind of call you on your stuff and help you along the way. My husband knows this about me. So what is one thing that we do to set ourselves up for success? I literally just don't buy it. There's nothing magical about my willpower. Nothing. Because it's at times non-existent. Like yesterday morning. But he set me up for success, and we literally just went grocery shopping, and I was looking for some cereal, and he was like, hey, I think you might like these. You know, it's high in fiber, good protein, and it's sweet, but it's not going to be bad for you. And I was like, okay. And ooh, that sun is in my face. That was literally my saving grace. And so then that was my coping mechanism, my sweet. But what was nice about that particular coping mechanism, sorry you guys, is that it didn't break the bank. I think I may have eaten 75 calories, and it satisfied 2 of my faves, something crunchy and something sweet. So what does this all mean? Number 1, I think to be successful, whether at your job, in your personal life with family and friends, because you're going to have stressors and then you're going to have coping mechanisms to deal with those relationships. What I'm talking about is our relationship with food. So I challenge you to think about when was the last time that you were stressed and what did you do when that stress happened? What was the first thing that you went to? Because oftentimes you won't even be thinking of it. Like I didn't even realize that I had mowed through all of those little Quaker square thingies. So I want you to try to, and something's going to happen this week. It always does. And you're going to be stressed. And I want you to take a minute and I want you to be mindful of what was the first thing that you were going to do? What were you going to do? And then when you stop and take a minute, I guess that's why they say stop and count to 10. Then I want you to see, okay, what are the things that you can do to set yourself up for success? And for me, it wasn't me not completely changing my coping mechanism. I mean, I think like, this is the cutest little dog. You've got the cutest little dog. Let's see if you can see her. She's this cute little like white Maltese, so cute. I think it's interesting. I mean, unless I had really big, deep psychotherapy, I'm probably never not going to cope with stress by putting something in my mouth. But the trick is, what can I do that's going to have the least amount of damage, but still give my body that ability to self-soothe without like completely wrecking my diet and my waistline. And so that is my challenge. I want you to take a minute the next time that you're very stressed, and I want you to think, what is the very next thing I'm going to do? And if the very next thing that you were going to do was to cram something in your mouth, I then want you to then go to your pantry, or if you're at work, and you got to set yourself up for success. You do not need to be Superman or Superwoman. Do not try to be a hero, because it's all well and good when things are going great and you're like, I have the stamina, I can have that stuff around, I am on my diet, I got my girls around me. Okay, that's all well and good when things are going great. But when the crap hits the fan, that is when the rubber meets the road, and that is going to be the true test to see how well that stamina really is. So honestly, just set yourself up for success. If if one of your coping mechanisms is crunchy things, then make sure that you just have a small amount of something that's crunchy, that is healthy, meaning low calorie, low carbohydrate. Because also the more carbs that you have, the more that your body's gonna respond to it and want to have more. If your coping mechanism is something sweet, then get a healthy sweet. Get something that can be satisfying, but again, low calorie, low glycemic index. I think it's funny, I have dark chocolate in my fridge. I enjoy dark chocolate. I really like milk chocolate, but I think it's interesting that I can have a piece of dark chocolate and it will completely satisfy, and when I say a piece, I mean a piece. It will completely satisfy my cravings, but I don't like it enough to where I want to go back and have more. And a little FYI, I'll leave a little thing. My favorite dark chocolate, I mean, I like the dark stuff, like 85% cacao. And Lily's has a dark chocolate that has sea salt on it. Oh my God, it is so good. However, I would never sit down and eat the whole bar. If that was milk chocolate, I would mow through it, but I know that about myself. So my challenge to you, try to be mindful, not just in your daily diet, but also within your relationships with other people. You just might find out a little thing or two about yourself and then how to make things a lot better. Hope that this helped.